hospitals, nursing homes, and care facilities are places where we meet the innate dignity of the other. We're called here to waste time, to be with, present to the beauty and the innate dignity of each. Religious have for many years responded to the call, I was sick and you visited me. This visiting is a sacred mission of the heart. And in this film, we will meet people who have responded to this sacred call.
That scripture that says, when I'm sick, you visited me, it means a lot to me. Because that's the time when I meet people, these vulnerable people, who shows me the vulnerable Christ and the helpless God.
I'm present and I try to be present to the need, not what I want to give to them, is what actually they really need.
I'm in a privileged position. If they invite me into their life, if they invite me into their story, that's a great privilege.
I visit them. I just bring who I am.
It's so important to be with and not around the people.
There was a lady came in to the hospital and knocked on our pastoral care office. As a 37-year-old lady with 2 little children, and she was newly diagnosed with breast cancer. She was so vulnerable and very distressed. So I just be there, listen to her story. I said nothing, but just be there. We even shared tears together.
I was in Canossa Services, a manager on one of the floors, second floor, and we were brought to this gentleman who had skin cancer. But by the time they came to Canossa, the face was totally devastated. You couldn't see, it came all wrapped up to us. He didn't have the mouth or the eyes, so we need to feed them. Did not have the family around him, the one that he was so in need of everything that you couldn't help it to really care for him, clothe him, feed him, you know. He wasn't able to talk anymore by that time, but he was able to write. So I told my nurses that I will take upon myself to actually dress him 3 times and feed him, which I started to do that. A few days after, he wrote down, asking me who I was, you know. He was not familiar with the religious sisters, so I told him, I was talking to him back, who I was, and she said, who do I believe? Because he didn't have religions or anything, that didn't know if he was baptized. He said, so I told him that I was a religious, that I love God. So after 3 weeks, more or less, of nursing and responding to him in love, he said, look, I want to go where your God is, he said. I want to go where your God is at the end of my days, so please pray for me, sister, because that's the way I wanted to go. Before, I didn't believe in anything, but because I see you being here and dedicated to me, I believe now there is someone out there, he said, and I want to go where you go, so when you die, so I go to God. So, yeah. Matthew 25 became alive. The gospel was lived in that circumstance with this particular gentleman.
Here in the home, we have the elderly who are some of them are quite handicapped or disabled, if you want to say today. They can't walk or they can hardly move. You have to feed them. Some of them are quite deaf, and sometimes you have to wash them and look after them. So in many ways, it's quite embarrassing for them, but it's how you do it. You know, you can clothe them. You can make them feel we care. We want you to know that we treat you with dignity. That's another big thing in our aged care. We do try to treat them with great dignity.
I was able to be present to a family who are from New Zealand. The decision had been made that the life support was to be removed that afternoon. So I went up and met the family that morning, and large extended family. And I kind of met them all and kind of suggested to them that when the life support was removed that afternoon, did they want to go to a quiet place. So I was able to take them down. I showed them the chapel, and they thought that would be a safe place after they'd removed the life support from the baby. And so the moment arrived, and so there was talk about how we were going to carry the baby to the chapel. But the baby, in fact, I think it's surrounded by so much love, it continued to live. So Mum was still, she was in the wheelchair and she carried the baby, and we all processed down to the chapel with the family. And I had prepared a ritual and started the ritual, but also very mindful of that they would have their own prayers and rituals and songs. And so I invited them to, if they wanted to express a song or a prayer. And there was a pause for a while, and then there was, I think it may have been the grandmother who invited these two young boys to come and do the haka for the baby. And it was very powerful. And after a while, there was all, they hadn't been able to hold the baby, so it was hello and goodbye. But the baby was passed from couple to couple and family to family, and the baby did die later that night. But they were just so far away from home, so it was a real privilege. And so when they would have been quite a stranger at the hospital, as I say, away from home, from the family, the extended family back home, and they were very grateful for the time and just the space for somebody just to, in some ways, help them say their goodbyes.
I was sick and visited me. I think that God is present in every human being. He's so present. Being with God is being with the person who needs to be visited, the person who's suffering, the person who needs so much compassion in this moment of anger, in this moment of suffering. So there where I see the face of God. And the face of God is the humanity of these people. It's not a God up there somewhere. It's real. I touch Him. I embrace Him, and likewise I feel embraced and touched. So it's always a two-way. It's never I do. It's always God visiting me as I visit you, as I feed you. God is feeding me. It's just always two-way, and it's so life-giving. You get up with a renewed energy every morning because of this.
I believe that religious, by and large, are faithful. We're faithful to God, we're faithful to our commitment, we're faithful to the people we minister to. And I believe the people understand that, and that enables them to put their trust in us and allow us to enter into their world, and that can make such a difference. Our faithfulness, our trustworthiness.
I presume that we are God's mob. Some of the people they say you're God's mob because they see that we publicly give ourselves to God who they do not see, to a God who somewhere they believe, but seeing that we are given to God totally, so we say, you are something precious for us.